coming to you today from the state of California, the state that has the most debt, the state that has the most homeless people, and the state that has the most fires. It's Tuesday, October 29, 2019. Markets pretty flat today. They are waiting for that rate cut tomorrow. I believe that we will get that cut tomorrow. I'm going 100% that we will get that rate cut tomorrow, and it will be 25 basis points, and we will begin to see these markets surge yet again as they are waiting in anticipation for another injection of their drug, which will be a rate cut. These markets are addicted to the Federal Reserve and the drug. Another rate cut. As the Fed is injecting billions of dollars into the market, it will now give the market what it wants. Another injection, another rate cut, just to keep this train on the tracks, to keep it going. But I want to talk about some really concerning news, that although the markets will continue to surge and we will see new all-time highs, manufacturing is now the smallest share of the U.S. economy in 72 years. Manufacturing made up only 11% of the GDP, while the government made up 12.3% of the GDP. We have more people now working for the government than making stuff here in America. How? Please answer me this. Please comment down below. How is America going to survive as a country? How will it have a prosperous economy when it does not make anything? When your GDP consists of 11% manufacturing? How does I just cannot compute how a country survives when 11% of its GDP is manufacturing. That means it is not making anything. How does a country survive? And will this country survive if it is not making anything other than consumption? Here's an interesting article I read on Drudge today. Record 67.3 million people speak a foreign language at home, over 50% in 90 big cities, and 59% of people in Los Angeles. Now this makes me think a little bit. It makes me ask some questions. MIT did a survey a few months ago, and in that survey, they found that 22 million people live here in America that shouldn't be here. People that are here illegally. My question is, as most of you know, we are going to witness an economic collapse in America. It will be the worst economic collapse in U.S. history. We will witness the Great Depression 2.0 here in America. What are we going to do with 22 million people in this country that shouldn't be here, as now we are beginning to see food shortages with what's happening in the Midwest with the farmers? We have AI and technology replacing jobs. So what are these people going to do for work? What are they going to do for food? What are they going to do for money? What are they going to do for medical? When we hit that collapse, when we hit that speed bump, how is this country going to take care of 22 million additional people on top of the 345 or 350 million people here in America right now? How does America take care of its own citizens? It can barely do that right now. I think 180,000, 190,000 homeless people here in California that cannot get help. How are we going to take care of 22 million people? Who's going to feed these people when they're starving? Who's going to give them medical aid when they need it? Who's going to give them work? And who's going to give them money? I mean, these people are draining the system right now, just draining government subsidies. They're draining the health system. And when we hit that Great Depression, that economic collapse, just think that you're going to be competing against not just everybody else, but you're going to be competing against 22 million people that shouldn't even be here. And I think that's really horrible that America, this government, is not looking out for its own people and allowing this illegal behavior to continue. Because when the lights go out in America, when people get hungry, when people get desperate and people get mad, just think you're going to be dealing with an additional 22 million people who are going to be angry, mad, hungry, going to want what you have. Many of these people have no allegiance or loyalty to America. Many of them criminals. So just think about what's going to happen when the lights go out in America, what you are going to be dealing with. So as the number of people who continue to come here illegally blows up, so does the U.S. national debt, which now has blown past $23 trillion. And every one of you should be very, very worried about that. Zero Hedge today, warning, interest rates, inflation, and debt do matter. I'm going to paraphrase through this article for you. Central banks across the world claim that the lack of inflation is the key force driving the quantitative easing policy and permitting it to continue. What happens when inflation begins to take root? The answer to that is you're going to see massive problems here in America. Inflation will cause the banks to lose flexibility. Governments will be forced to pay higher interest rates on their debt. They always say it's different this time, but history shows that periods of rapid credit expansion always ends in the same way, and that it ends in default, and this will be the biggest default the world has ever seen. Washington claims the budget deficit is under control. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a complete lie, as many of the other things they tell us is just an utter lie. Remember, numbers don't lie, the people using them do. Projections made by the government or any group predicting budgets on events that may or may not happen at some future day are simply predictions. They are not fact. There are charts that predicted national debt to go up around 12 trillion, a little over 12 trillion under the Obama administration. That was way off because it ballooned way past that. So charts and graphs and predictions don't matter. What does is facts. Washington and the media are not warning you to what is coming. They are telling you that the stock market's good, that the stock market is safe. And this is the same stock market that is propped up on a daily basis by the media and by the Fed. They're not warning you of the danger. Instead, they're telling you everything is okay. And I'm telling you, it is not okay. Things are getting very, very dangerous. And yet we're going to see people get really hyped up and excited about the stock market highs. People are going to get complacent. Everybody's going to feel like everything's okay. But you and I know it is not. This is no time to stop preparing. This is the time to get aggressive and really prepare. This is the lull in the storm. Take advantage of every day while you can to keep preparing, while the masses and the sheep keep getting dumbed down, bamboozled, and fooled, and sucked into these markets like a cheap poker game. These are the people that are going to lose. Take advantage of the time and keep preparing. Stay on the same path. I'm here to remind every one of you, you are not alone. There's people out there that just think they're the only ones that know what's going on, that they're completely alone, that nobody believes what they believe. I'm here to tell you I believe exactly what you believe, and I'm here to reinforce what you believe. I believe in the same thing, and I'm going to continue to prepare the best that I can every day that I can, whether that's getting in better shape, putting more food and water away, training more with my security, walking closer to God, whatever it is. Take every day and do something to be more productive and more prepared. Paul Volcker, this is in the article also. Paul Volcker, Fed chairman back from the late 70s, early 80s. He had to raise the Fed fund rate to 20% in 1981. And that caused the prime rate to hit 21.5%. This is what he had to do to get inflation under control. Could you imagine if we were in that situation today? This is where we're heading. But if we just raised the rate to 3%, we would be in the biggest collapse the world has ever seen. I don't think people realize that. We don't need to go to 20% or 21% or 15% or 10%. All we need to do is go up 2 or 3%, and we have massive trouble here in America. We are literally hanging on by a thread, and the average American, no matter how smart he or she thinks they are, how many degrees they have, what kind of car they're driving, what their zip code is, they believe everything is okay. Yet, 80% of America is living paycheck to paycheck, and shame on those people who believe everything is okay, because 80% of America should not be living paycheck to paycheck. The day of reckoning is coming. How it arrives, nobody really knows. But one thing for sure is when it does arrive, many will be caught off guard. Many will be caught by surprise. And to those people, you will be living in the worst nightmare you could humanly think possible. I'm making another video today to warn every one of you. Don't be one of these people caught by surprise. One of these people living with uncertainty. One of these people living in denial. Don't be caught by surprise. You have no excuse. You need to be getting ready now, because when this thing hits, it's going to hit so hard. People are going to be dazed and confused, dumbfounded. They're going to be like, what happened? The paper millionaires will be wiped out overnight. People's pensions will be wiped out. People's retirements will be wiped out. The average American has no idea the wrath of this storm, of this reckoning coming to America. And I pray to God every one of you is preparing and is continuing to wake up people. Even though we know most people won't wake up, we still have a duty as Americans to wake people up, whether that's our family members, people at church, our friends, people at work, whomever. I believe we have a fiduciary duty to continue to wake people up. Even if they laugh at you, make fun of you, hey, at the end of the day, you know we did everything we could for our friends, our family, our country. If they didn't want to listen, shame on them. But at least we tried. Zero hedge today. Stocks in yuan tumble on US-China trade headlines. This comes from a U.S. administration official. US-China Phase 1 agreement may not be signed at the Chile APEC meeting in November. So this is not positive news. We've been on a teeter-totter for 23 months now on these China negotiations, which have gone absolutely nowhere. And it just continues to go nowhere. But it is amazing that anytime there's any good news, the algorithms in these markets go absolutely bananas. The official went on to say, if it doesn't get signed in Chile, it doesn't mean that talks have fallen apart. It just means that more time is needed. So again, in my humble opinion, there will be no deal in 2019. There will be no deal in 2020 as these Chinese, this communist regime is going to try and wait this president out. They're going to hope that he's impeached, or they're going to hope that he loses the election. They're not going to cut a deal. They are just stringing this president and America on. There will be no deal. So we are living in fantasy land here, where I don't even think this thing even matters. China does not matter to America. What does matter is the debt. China is not going to be what brings the U.S. collapse, the economic collapse to America. The U.S. debt is going to bring the collapse to America. I think so much is being made out of this whole China trade negotiation. Look, my life really hasn't changed. I don't even shop at Walmart anymore. So, maybe I'm spending $1 or $2 more a week somewhere on some Chinese products that I really don't want to buy anyways. But overall, my life really hasn't changed. As far as I'm concerned, we can shut the door to China, and we should just be making these products right here in America instead of sending our money over to these slave labor camps to a Chinese communist regime using slave labor to sell garbage at Walmart. I don't shop at Walmart anymore, and I will gladly pay more money for an American product just so I don't have to endorse or support slave labor. Pending home sales. Here's some good news for everybody. Pending home sales surprise, biggest annual gain since 2015. This September, pending home sales were up 1.5% month over month, and they were up 6.3% this September compared to last September. The West and the Northeast recorded declines. So what's prompting this good news? Well, it's low, ultra low mortgage rates. It's subprime loans coming back into the home sector. And it's more propaganda by the media telling everybody that everything's going to be okay. This is the time to get in. The stock market's going to go up. And it's just more of this propaganda juicing the markets and juicing the population, the media, the masses and the sheeple to jump on into the stock market, into the housing market. Look, I don't give financial advice, but if a personal friend or family member asks me if they should buy a house right now, I would say absolutely not. Do not buy a house right now. This would be the worst possible time. The housing bubble is so overinflated. This thing is going to blow up like there is no tomorrow. When this thing blows up, it is going, I believe, to make the 2008 housing crash look like kindergarten. So no, I would definitely, I think common sense would tell most people that you would want to wait to see what happens in 2020, what's going to happen with the election, and what kind of fallout are we going to see after the election? If this president is elected, what kind of civil fallout are we going to see happen? What are we going to see in the markets? Me personally, I would not do anything until after 2020. That's me. Again, I'm not giving financial advice. That's my personal opinion. But again, the housing market, this bubble, is being propped up and overinflated by more of this media propaganda, more of these subprime loans, exotic loans coming into the market, these low rates as they're just tempting people to come in, just as they're tempting people to come into the stock market. And there are a lot of foolish people that are getting into these markets, getting into housing, and they are going to have their head handed to them. Zero Hedge, trucking slowdown ahead of holiday season suggests consumer is faltering. The consumer's faltering, we know that, yet people are buying houses. How dumb is that? As most of you know, the Halloween retail numbers are already predicted to be down for the second year in a row. And now we're seeing predictions that the holiday season for Christmas is also going to be down. Old Dominion Freight Line reported revenue declines year over year for the third quarter, which was the first drop since 2016. This is another sign of a faltering economy, which is being led lower by a weakening consumer. But yet we should all go out and buy a house. You know, it's amazing. These people that buy houses, by the time they pay their mortgage, or when they do pay their mortgage, they literally are spending 50% of their income just to pay a mortgage payment. 30 to 50% of their paycheck now is just going to pay a mortgage. These people are walking such a thin line. These are the same exact people who, in my opinion, are on borrowed time. Once the car breaks down, once the kid falls down or breaks his arm, no emergency fund, 30 to 50% of their income just going to a mortgage payment. And they're just hoping, fingers crossed, that nothing bad happens, that the husband or wife doesn't lose a job, that nobody gets sick, that nothing happens, to the car, that no life emergency happens. And if nothing happens, they'll be okay. And God forbid something happens in the economy, these people are going to get absolutely smoked. Stocks are going to new highs with the anticipation of an imminent economic revival. But today's trucking industry says that the economy isn't going to rebound this year as Wall Street believes that it is. So let me ask you this, please comment down below. Who do you believe? Do you believe in Wall Street that this economy is going to see a revival, that the holiday season is going to be big, that it's going to be record breaking, and that the economy is just going to go to another level? Or do you believe the trucking industry, where they're saying that revenue is declining, freight shipments are declining, the amount of freight that they are shipping is declining, the amount of trucks that are sitting isn't declining but actually increasing because they don't have stuff to ship? When you look at new truck orders, these freight companies are not ordering. New truck orders are down 70-80% because companies like Old Dominion are seeing revenue declines. They're not shipping as much. So who do you believe? I believe 100% in the trucking industry, because I understand and know that Wall Street and the stock market is an illusion, and that it is so far detached from reality that it doesn't even matter. I live in the real world. So do people in the trucking industry. Here's an article from Freight Waves. It published a new report Thursday that detailed how trucking load volumes continue to decelerate into the peak holiday season. If that isn't a bad enough warning sign that freight volumes are decelerating as we are now entering the holiday season, that is a massive red flag right there. The slowdown in the trucking industry suggests that the consumer is more than likely going to disappear this season. Expect a not so good holiday season as far as retail. Amazon last week guided its forecast for the holiday season lower. Expect an underwhelming holiday season for retailers. And that's just a fact. AP today. U.S. consumer confidence falls for third consecutive month heading into the holidays. Not a good sign. Do your homework. It's on the AP right there. I'm just reading it to you. Every one of you has to ask yourself this question. Why would the Fed cut interest rates a third time in a row as the stock market is at all-time highs or nearing all-time highs? And my answer to that, and I'm sure everybody has their own answer, but my answer to that is if they don't, there will be a major pullback in the stock market immediately. The markets cannot stand on their own 2 feet. They are so afraid to take the training wheels off of these markets because they know if they do take the training wheels off these markets will crash. If we don't get a rate cut tomorrow, you will find out immediately how strong these markets are. They are addicted to the drug, okay? They are addicted to the Federal Reserve and rate cuts. They are now addicted to the Federal Reserve injecting and buying in these markets, injecting billions of dollars and buying into these markets while at the same time cutting rates. I'm gonna wrap it up right here, but real quick, I read an article today with money manager Michael Pento. And he says right here, we are all screwed. The U.S. is like a banana republic and a depression could be on the way, warns Michael Pento. This is why they will continue cutting rates, because they are putting off the greatest depression of all time. This is why you are seeing billions of dollars by the Fed being injected into the repo market. This is why the Fed is buying billions of dollars in the debt market. This is why they must continue cutting rates, because if they don't, the greatest depression in history will be upon us. The question is, how much longer can they continue doing this? And how bad will it be when they no longer can contain what is coming? And that will be the greatest depression the world has ever seen. God bless every one of you. Continue to be preparing. Continue to be buying gold and silver and hard tangible assets. Most of all, continue to be walking close to God and praying for this country. God bless every one of you. Thanks for watching. Share this video. Talk to you very soon.